In this lesson, we'll continue working on the topology and then add some thickness to our blade. So here is exactly where we left off, and so let's go ahead and just continue this process. I'm going to start down here at this point, bring that down, and then I want to take this point right here, this interior point, kind of move it up at that corner of where that kind of blade turns around here, and then start to come down this way. So go down, use our knife here, and actually I'll go ahead and just connect that across there. And let's go ahead and get back to our knife. Okay, and then this point I'll go ahead and connect there. And I'll take this point and move it down. And so you can kind of see that we have this sharpened area right in here. And so I'm going to go ahead and define that as well here. And so to do that, again, we're going to use our knife and just come in and bring this over. And I'll go ahead and connect it right up there. Okay. And let's go ahead and continue it around the side here. All the way in there. And we'll just connect that up to the corner for now. Okay. So you can see here we've got to kind of come across here. And so now we have this sort of triangle here and then an end gun here. One thing I can do to change up this corner is to go ahead and use the knife, and instead of drawing this out over here and over here, we'll just draw it out to this corner. Okay, and then we can take these edges, and we don't have to worry. One of the nice things about this is that it's all on one plane. We don't have to worry about changing anything in another plane. So we'll go ahead and just dissolve that, and then I'm going to take this edge, and let me undo that. I want to actually just, instead of dissolving, we'll go ahead and just melt that. And I'll go ahead and get rid of that point, but I'll leave this point down here. Okay. And then let's connect it up with this one. Okay. So we'll go ahead and do that. I'm going to add a little bit of space here where you have this kind of sharp curve coming in. And here on the triangle, I'm going to go ahead and add one more point in here. Okay, and I'll move that so we get a nice curve down in there. All right, and then let's take the edge that we've got here. Okay, we'll go ahead and dissolve that, so that just kind of cleans that area up a little bit. All right, now down here we want to go ahead and continue this line, but I'm actually going to delete. I'm not going to have any geometry for the thickness, so we can actually cut off geometry right there. And so we'll go ahead and start right here and just sort of cut it off there, grab that point, move it down a little bit. Okay, so we're taking that geometry around and then cutting that off. And you can see here we have a triangle. So we can grab both of these points and do a weld, and that'll get rid of that triangle there. It will give us one fewer point to work with on getting this curve, but that's okay. Okay, so we've got sort of this area. Now we do have an end gun right here that we need to take care of, and to do that we could either we could kind of come across here and take care of that. We could come down from this point to take care of that, coming in here if we wanted to, but that kind of draws that geometry in to a smaller area. So it's really kind of up to you what you want to do. I think one of the easiest things to do here would be to cut this off at this point right here to make a quad right here, and then you can see we have a triangle here. Now we are building this to be low resolution, but we're also building this to be able to sculpt it. So you can see we're not adding a lot of triangles. We're not going really low resolution. We want to be able to still subdivide this in ZBrush and have a fairly clean result so that we can actually do our sculpting. So it's a little bit of a give and take. We're not going to be able to get extremely low res here. We want to still have a relatively clean mesh, although we're not getting obviously not getting too high res here. So it's really kind of a, like I said, a give and take between how much resolution we can add, how clean we can make it, versus making sure that we're still able to deal with it as a low resolution piece. And then we can come in with our knife if we want to just come and draw this across, and then selecting that edge there, dissolve that. Again, going back and just making sure that these are spaced out evenly, making sure it's kind of nice and clean in there. You can do the same thing here where we have a triangle. Kind of add that, go back and add another point in there. Okay, let's go ahead and do that, and then select that edge. Move in a little bit so we can just select it. So getting rid of those triangles. Come across here and start to connect that up. Okay, and then just looking at our different options here, you can see we have some sort of long, thin polygons. So if you want to, you could come in and just add a little bit more resolution in here, so that as we subdivide this, we get a little bit more, a few more polygons here. Although, we are, in some of these cases, we're creating some polygons that are a little bit longer, which, in many cases you're not going to want. So, you can start to come in and space those out. So you can see we have some kind of longer, thin polygons. We can start to move those apart, so the polygons that we have are going to be as square as possible. Okay, in some cases we're not going to really avoid it, but it'll just make our lives a little bit easier if the polygons that we create we don't have a lot of long, really skinny type polygons. Okay, and we'll go back to our knife, and let's go ahead and from here just draw this down. And so as long as it's something close to that, where we've got geometry defining the edges here, I think you're going to be fine. So you want to get it sort of something near that. And so looking at this now in our perspective view, you can see that it is completely flat. And so what we want to do now is add thickness to this, but we also want to have the sharpness of the blade. So we want to make sure to get that as well. Okay, so to add some thickness to this, let's go ahead and just go to our polygon tool. I'm going to right click and go to extrude, and let's start to extrude this out. And you can see the values changing over here in our attributes manager. So I'm going to set that offset down to, let's set it down to maybe 25, whatever the thickness of the blade that we want to have at its basically its widest part. So 25 to 30 maybe. Now you can see that we don't have the original piece. We've extruded that out. We've added that geometry along the sides, but we don't have that cap, so we need to turn on our caps. Okay, and if you want to add another subdivision, you can. I'm not going to do that because I want to go ahead and create the sharpness of the blade, and so I'll leave mine at maybe 25 to 30. Okay, and we'll go ahead and get out of that tool, and you can see here that now we have a thick piece of polygon geometry for our blade. Now obviously the blade's going to be pretty dull if we leave it like this, but we have an edge right here where this starts to get sharp. So what we can do is start to take the 2 points all in the blade, and so this is the sharpness here, the cutting edge of the blade, as well as this in here. And so we'll take these two opposing points and just start to weld those together. Okay, so again, taking those two, going to weld, and we'll just work our way down. Okay, so all it's doing is taking those two opposing points on the cutting edge and welding those together to create the sharpness. And you can see that that sharpness stops, or that tapering stops at that edge that we've defined. Okay, so I would come all the way, probably all the way down here and around. So I would make your way all the way around here, just kind of zipping that together using weld. Okay, And so what you end up with, as you can see here, that we've actually got those points. If I undo this, you can see how that has not totally welded in the center. So you just want to make sure that your points, if you go ahead and click on those, and we'll go to weld. I think in some cases I was probably clicking on that point over here. So this is going to weld to wherever you click. You could weld it to this point, or in the center, and you want to weld it in the center. So just keep that in mind. Probably better to do it at more of a shallow angle so you're not accidentally selecting one of the points instead of the center point there. Okay? Alright, so once we have those all welded together, and you want to go all the way just up to the top here, right up to the top, okay, and stop at that point. So you will have a triangle there on the end, and then wherever you stop down here, you'll have a triangle as well. I'll probably go ahead and leave these. Alright, so once we've got that done, the next thing that we want to do is to build the guard part of the hilt. So that's the part that's right up here, that's right above your hand if you're holding the sword. And so we'll go ahead and do that in the next lesson.